Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of Chiefs Focus First and 10 on this lovely Thursday night, first night of real football. What's up, guys? Got Caleb, got Quentin. What's going on?
Doing good, man. How are you doing?
What's up? I'm good, man. I'm good. What about you, Quentin?
Football is back,
Thank you, God.
so I'm as happy as can be.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Same here.
Yep. It looks like it's, let's get into something really quick. Then we get off the subject. But I've been watching this Bills-Rams game, and the Rams look a little sloppy, but the Bills look more sloppy to a degree on offense. And I don't see what everybody is seeing. I don't see what Chris Collinsworth is seeing, where he compared him to Brady, and then he threw 2 interceptions after that. Of course, it wasn't his fault that he threw him. We never heard those excuses, for Mahomes last year when Tyreek caused 3 or 4 or 5 interceptions. But it is what it is. I just don't see this number one defense, and I don't see the offense there yet. Now I know this is the first game of the season, but you'd think that they would be out there playing their best. And honestly, I mean, it just doesn't look that great to me. Josh Allen, to me, is a very scared thrower of the ball. I won't call him a passer yet, but
Okay.
when he gets under just the slightest bit of pressure, he throws interceptions, and people exploit it. And I notice anybody with a decent, and that was last year is the same. Anybody with a decent D line or a decent pass rush puts him under pressure, and he throws errant balls. And I noticed that he wasn't running hardly at all tonight, which is in the first half anyway, which is very uncharacteristic of him. And when he did try to run, he got clobbered.
I think there was one play he got like 2 headshots on him.
Yeah.
In the first drive before they scored that touchdown. I don't know if Quentin, did you see that happen?
No.
Yeah, he got hammered, and then he tried to run the ball in the second quarter, and he couldn't even get past the line of scrimmage before they just drilled him into the ground. Had about 5 guys on top of him, including Aaron Donald. So I don't know, man. I don't see what everybody's seeing in that team, but hey, they could change and they can turn it around, I guess, like every other team can. But if that's indicative of how they're going to play the rest of the season, we're not going to be talking about them much longer. So,
I mean, I know it's the first game, and I'm not saying I'm not scared of the Bills nor the Rams. And yeah, there's going to be some sloppiness, but I feel like every team, and Quentin, you probably would agree with me, and JP would agree with me with this as well, but teams are going to be very sloppy in this first couple of weeks. But one thing that I'm kind of seeing is, I'm not saying Josh Allen has regressed, but he's not playing to the standards he was playing last year. Now, that may be due to rust. I mean, they haven't played in the last few months. We've had OTAs, a draft. I mean, different things like that in the camp as well happen. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how he can go play as a whole, but kind of looking at the AFC as a whole. Everyone's saying the Bills are a Super Bowl favorite. I'm not seeing right now. And I'm not saying that because the Rams are giving them a good fight. I'm just saying the Bills, they look like they've gotten better, but 3 turnovers in the first half is pretty bad.
Yeah.
That is pretty bad. If you want to win a football game, we've seen the Chiefs turn the ball over 3 times and almost come back and win the game, but they ultimately lost because they ended up turning the ball over way too many times. They lost a turnover battle.
Yep.
There's a reason why that is one of those stereotypical things that your football coach says. It's like, we got to win the turnover battle, because it's true. I will say that I'm tired of hearing the hype about the Bills. There was a Good Morning Football where they were doing their Super Bowl predictions, and every single host chose the Bills to not only go to the Super Bowl, but to win the Super Bowl. There was not a single person that chose the Chiefs, Bengals, any of the other quality teams in the AFC. It was all Bills to win. So, and I'm just saying that usually when everybody gets on one team to go and win something, it doesn't happen.
No.
I think that's a great point you bring up too. You're not wrong.
That's why gambling exists, because when everybody gets on one thing, it doesn't happen.
How do you think? And you're right. How do you think bookies make so much money? It's because they put the odds where they want in their best favor to win, and it's no different than when it comes to these analysts, that other than Peter Schrager, which did say that he thinks the Chiefs are going to take everybody down in the AFC and win the Super. He thinks it's going to be a rematch this year, and it's going to be the Packers and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, which
Mm,
I have thought that a couple of times over the last few years, and this year might be that year because Rodgers he's got limited time left. He knows he wants to retire fairly soon. He doesn't want to continue. He almost retired prior to this season, and
mm-hmm.
I think he wants to go out with a bang. And if it's a loss in the Super Bowl, he still went to the Super Bowl.
Hmm.
So, but Peter Schrager did come around, and in fact, we got the clip on Twitter that he said, I know we've been talking a lot about the Bills, and yeah, they look like they've gotten better. They look this, but you know what? I'm going with the Chiefs. He said they all around, when you got Patrick Mahomes and you got a hyped up defense, a young
Mhm.
defense, and then you bring in all of these weapons that have proven that they can go blow to blow with Mahomes and stay in the game. It's he picked them hands down over
Yeah.
everybody. So
I mean, when you look at the teams, I mean, the Chiefs, I mean, they're a well-rounded team.
yeah,
Finally, on the offensive side of the ball. Now, defense, I still want to see what they can do, but I mean, they really hit on all their draft picks. I'm not concerned. I think the team can do really well this season. Now it just comes down to execution, not having any turnovers, and most importantly, will the coaching staff, particularly people like Spags, are they going to put the right players in the right position? If you don't do that, you're going to have a repeat of last year where you could have won the Super Bowl or even made the Super Bowl. I mean, you don't want the same results.
well, you know, it's funny you say that because this year he really didn't have any excuses because he doesn't
Mhm.
have all those older players that were here forever, and he doesn't have that depth chart to look at. He's got to look at, okay, well, I've got 1 and 2 year players in the linebacker position. I've got almost an entirely new defensive line except for Jones and Clark.
Mhm.
So now I've got we've got a completely new secondary with the exception of Snead and Fenton. So now it's just a matter of putting the right pieces, the right packages together per team that you're playing, per offense that you're going against.
Mhm.
And that's going to be the biggest. And I mentioned this before on the show, but I think he's had that conversation, and I believe he's now understanding that this isn't 2008, to 1998. This is when you really study film, see who is going to be the best matchup for that offense, and go
Mhm.
and put those guys in play. And look, Leo Chanel's a starter. That should tell you a lot right there.
Yeah, how do you guys feel about that? How do you guys feel about Leo Chanel starting? I'm kind of surprised to see that.
I think he's seen what happened with Nick Bolton last year, and he feels like he's got another player like that. And I think he does too.
Hmm.
And there's going to be some rotation too. You're going to see guys roll from the Mike to the Sam to the Will, and back and forth. And all of those guys, except for, I think Willie Gay is better off in the position he's in, but Nick Bolton and Chanel both can play any of those positions.
Mm,
And if you match them up correctly, you've got a nightmare in linebackers.
How do you feel
Here,
about that, Quentin?
here's from my understanding, Willie Gay has, I don't want to say struggled, but the benefit of having a Willie Gay on your team is like a Reggie Ragland, really good run defender, can go downhill, not great in pass coverage. So when your Chanel is better,
Hmm.
is much better in the pass coverage. So I think that's where the idea comes from. We're moving into more of a passing league.
Hmm.
And I think that with the offense we're facing on Sunday against the Cardinals, there is that chance that Chenault, it's got more sideline speed too. So
Okay.
if you want to, make sure Kyler Murray doesn't get outside of the box, you can try and contain him a little bit more with some better outside speed.
Okay.
So I think you've got that as well. I wouldn't be surprised if that position gets changed throughout the year. If like Willie Gay does start on another week, he's the number 2 linebacker, and then
Mhm.
Chenault's that rotational piece. That wouldn't surprise me. I think there's going to be a lot of positions that are going to like that, where it really is going to be a heavy rotation on almost every level of the defense, except maybe safety.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right. They're going to be doing a lot of committee style play, but I do know that they're going to do a lot of um, 3 linebacker sets, and that's going to be tremendous for this team. That helped us in prior years get a lot of sacks. It just did. It got a lot of pressure on the quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
and it limited what that quarterback can do and what the running back can do for that
Yeah.
matter. So I think that's going to be a huge impact when they run that 3 linebacker set.
Are we scared of the? I'm just curious. Are we not that scared, but are we concerned what the Cardinals could do? I know they're missing a couple of their key starters in certain instances, like D Hop. Do you think that the Chiefs can be able to keep up with them on the defensive end? Because they like to run a spread offense.
I think they
I think
can.
is a great opportunity for the defense. I think it's the perfect game for the Chiefs to have because it is going to put stress on the defense, but they don't have a superstar on the
Mhm.
defense. So when they get stressed, I don't expect them to necessarily break, but having a
Mhm.
mobile quarterback, Kyler Murray is so good at running the ball. He's so good at finding that hole and
Mhm.
going after it. And he's really good at sliding and not taking those big hits. So it's frustrating if you're facing him, and you want to get that big hit on him and you want to tackle it, but somehow he's able to squeeze out of it.
Mm.
It's
And
his
because they
size.
don't, yeah,
His-
well, yeah, he's a smaller guy. He can just, he can, but he's also just, he's got very good vision.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then not having D Hop is big because there's not like a top tier wide receiver. I know they traded for, was it AJ
Hollywood.
Brown?
Hollywood
Brown.
to be
Yeah.
exact.
Yeah, Hollywood
Who is
Brown.
a quality wide receiver, former first round pick,
Mhm.
quality wide receiver, got a lot of speed. So, they have weapons there. But I think it's the perfect game to see what this Chiefs defense can do.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. I think the loss of their center is going to really hurt them. And then they lost another player yesterday or
D Hop
today.
is out for 6, 7 games because of PED use,
Yeah. Well,
or
they
he
lost
says
one
he
to
didn't.
Yeah. Well, they lost another player to injury in practice. I think it was yesterday.
JJ Watt's hurt.
Yeah,
That's nothing new.
Watt's hurt. Yeah, which
He's
that's-
always hurt.
I would have been surprised if he was healthy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it'd be more of a surprise if he's actually not injured. Or at least playing with 80% of his game. But no, they lost someone else. I can't think of his name right now, but they lost another player, and he was a pretty integral part of their team. So it's going to be interesting. I think the Chiefs, they haven't lost. In fact, I think they have the streak right now of opening game wins.
I think they won the last 7 or 8.
7 or 8, yeah, something like that.
Well, you don't want to face Andy Reid on a bye week.
That's
No,
So
true.
I can only
definitely don't.
imagine, like just explode that out because he's been focusing on this one game for much longer than that.
Yeah, he's like 20-2 after a bye. So whether it be bye week during the season or bye week because of playoff,
Or even the off season, you can call that a technical bye month.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
all that
Yeah.
time to work with the team and get everything, figure out what they can do, and then all of a sudden you're ready to go. Are
Yeah.
you guys? I'm just curious. Are you guys worried about when it comes to the offense to see if there's going to be any rust, or do you think they're going to be able to run like pretty smooth?
I don't think there's going to be any rust. I got to be honest with you. I feel like the only rust that you would see maybe out of anyone, which I didn't see it in preseason, is Travis Kelce, and there's no rust on him. Everybody else is new and ready to go. The one person I would be a little concerned with right now would be Juju, because he keeps re-injuring that knee. And
Yeah,
that's the only person I'd be concerned with. But everybody else seems to be within like striking distance, so they're just ready to go. What about you, Quentin?
I mean, with the way the preseason went, I don't see anything coming off. Patrick Mahomes had, those 3 drives, all touchdowns, all 10, 11, 12 plays, touchdowns.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can't stand here or sit here and tell you that I'm going to see anything different.
No, it's he looked too fluent. Everybody just looked too fluent. And even the defense, except for the Washington game when Chris Jones was not in the game, that was the only game that I noticed that they couldn't stop, they got a little thrashed during the run at the beginning of the game, but they made up for it. And
Hmm.
I just don't see the offense having issues. I just don't. I think they're just going to go. They right now. I'll put it this way: with all the bashing that Mahomes has gotten with the exit of Tyreek Hill, him, not just him, but all of these wide receivers has something to prove. And their proof is going to be we can win without him and we can score 36 points a game without him.
They've done it before. They
They
scored
have.
40 a couple times without getting the ball to Tyreek. I think it's very possible.
Well, you've seen what they did to the Raiders without Tyreek and Kelsey in the game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in fact, if you look, they've won every game that Tyreek was not in. Every game.
They
That he
have.
hasn't
Oh,
played
wow.
in. Yeah. And
That's
they
a pretty
actually
good stat.
damn good stat. So, and those were with, to be honest with you, those were with lesser wide receivers than what we have right now.
Mm.
So, when you figure you got a Pringle in there, you've got D-Rob in there, guys like that took snaps that really weren't anywhere near the caliber of what we have on the field right now.
Hmm.
It's going to be hard pressed to see us fail. The one thing that I think I'm looking forward to the most, and I have a lot of this saved, is the maybe halfway through the season when Miami trades for a quarterback like Jimmy G, which I think is going to inevitably end up happening.
You think so?
Yeah. And I think Tyreek is going to eat all of his words. He just hasn't stopped yet. And I know he's got a little bit of an issue and I know why, but that's on him. It's not on anybody else but him. So he's caused these problems for himself. He had every opportunity to stay here and he wanted the bag. The bag.
I mean, he
was,
wanted what was it? Am I close to 30 per year?
He got 30 a year.
I know when we were all talking, we had Quentin on the podcast. I don't know if you remember this, Quentin, but I remember saying there is no way you can pay your quarterback and then pay him that same amount of money in order to keep the team competitive. There's no way. You just have to trade him while his value is the highest, get those picks and head in the draft. It looks like the Chiefs have done that so far.
Well, he's going to be 29. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know, man. You're right. It's just going to be difficult to see. It's not going to be difficult for me, but it's going to be difficult for him to get the stats and the numbers that he got with Kansas City. And he's already made that comment that he made a mistake, a giant mistake. So, and somebody else brought this up too, is that all that hype and everything that he did with all this Tyreek Hill stuff with all this Tua stuff has really put a lot of pressure on Tua. And that's not a good thing to do with somebody that's had a really rough go of it in the NFL. You just don't want to put that kind of pressure on somebody. And that's what he did. I don't know about you, Quentin, but to me, it just seems like he put way too much pressure on a kid that doesn't have the talent to be able to reach that.
Yeah, you never want to do that. Especially when you're a team that hasn't had success in the past. I can't remember the last time the Dolphins won a playoff game.
Yeah, time. I think it was 2012, if I'm not mistaken, or when they went to the playoffs. I could be wrong, but I think it was 12.
I'm not a huge Tua believer. I'm not sure even what the Dolphins are going to be able to do in general for this upcoming season. They were a game above 500, 9-7, I think, last year.
Yeah.
They're a shoulder shrug of a team. They're the team that could go on a 5-game win streak, go into a wild card game, win a wild card game, and then move on to the next round. They're also the team that could flame out in December and just be a complete embarrassment.
True.
All of those options are on the table for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah. Yeah. When we talk about, everything being new, you have everything new down there, from defensive coaches to head coach, OC, DC, everybody's new. The only real player that's left is Tua, or the one, I guess I should say, tenured player with that team is Tua, and maybe a couple others, but it's going to be hard pressed for them to gel that quickly because they don't have the coaching staff and they don't have the quarterback to help them gel. And I see that with the Raiders as well. The Raiders got rid of everybody. I mean, everybody. I am still flabbergasted at what they did. I know that there's a lot of ego amongst coaches, and with Josh McDaniels, he basically did the exact same thing when he went to Denver. He got rid of everybody and he failed. He failed miserably. And he's doing it again. And I think he gave away any realm of a possibility to be competitive in this division this year. He didn't make himself better, he made himself worse. And he made the team worse. And not only that, a perfect example of that is the fact that as soon as that happened, the next day, Darren Waller went out and hired Drew Rosenhaus as his agent and asked for an extension and a pay raise. So that's kind of saying, okay, I don't really believe in what you're doing. So if you don't want to pay me to stay here, I want to go somewhere else that's actually going to have either some contention or be able to pay me, one or the other. Because I mean, he's 29 years old. His career he's been injured 6 times. His career is going to come to an end at some point. He's not a Travis Kelce that's going to be able to play, or he may not be able to play another 5 years, 4 years. So he wants to get paid while he can. And being with a team that has just basically crumbled all of your hopes of being in contention this year by getting rid of all your first, second round picks from the last 2 years. And then also dumping Leatherwood, which was a giant mistake. I mean, look what Gruden did, the exact same thing. He dumped Khalil Mack. He dumped Amari Cooper. He got rid of all these players and he never made it to the playoffs. So I just don't see this happening for him this year. I see them dead last. They went from thin mint to no mint when it came to the secondary. They got nothing. They got no secondary right now. And their defense was already struggling. So now you got nobody. I mean, I don't know. It's just going to be very, very interesting to see what they end up doing. But Cleveland, I don't know, man. They're another team in the AFC that's probably going to crumble. The Jets look like they're going to be better than Cleveland. It just is what it is.
I mean, they had a really good draft.
They did.
So
They
I
did.
think they have a chance to do some things this season. Not maybe win, but to at least win 8 to 9 games.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in retrospect, they could be that team in that division that rivals everybody else. They could actually be that team. They got new coaches, knew this, knew that, and they're all hyped up and ready to go. And they're so tired of being, what's the word? Trashed, I guess, if you want to call it, the underdog, the team that everybody laughs at.
Being the Jets,
that they want to be the Patriots now. And they might just be that team that gives the Bills and gives the Patriots a run for their money. But I still think the Patriots are going to win that division. Even with Mac Jones, I think they're going to win that division. I don't know about you guys, but that's just my opinion. So, but anyway, yes, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how, and I want to see really, I don't know about you guys, but I want to see what the Chargers look like this year. What's your guys'
injured.
opinion on
That's how they'll look. They'll be injured.
They'll be injured.
JC Jackson's already going to be out for the first couple of weeks. He was one of their big, additions this offseason. I don't understand how it's always something with the Chargers. It's always there's a big injury, our quarterback gets stabbed in the lung.
Yeah.
Or, there's always something going on with the Los Angeles Chargers as a continuation from the San Diego Chargers.
Yeah.
And I don't like noisy teams.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. It's strange because their downfall started in 2004 when they decided to dump Drew Brees for Phillip Rivers. And now, I mean, honestly, it's like, everybody said that Arrowhead had a curse at one time. I see that with the Chargers team. I don't see it with the stadium per se, like they said Arrowhead has a curse. I see the Chargers team having a curse because every year they either miss the playoffs, lose in the playoffs, don't get close to the playoffs. Regardless of how many thousands of yards that Phillip Rivers threw for, he was still throwing fits on the field, and they missed the playoffs or they lost in the playoffs. So, and it looks like it's almost a continuation of that. And it's sad because Herbert actually has a lot of talent, and he's a lot more grounded, I think, than Rivers was. He's a lot more level-headed. He's more humbled. And I think it's sad to see somebody like him. You always talk about those teams like the Texans that waste players, that waste their careers. I see a lot of that in the Chargers because, yeah, they may have all the stats in the world, but where's that ring? Where's the ring? Because that's your ultimate goal, is to win a ring, and they don't have one. So it's crazy to think about it from that perspective, but I don't know what their trophy case looks like, but it sure as hell doesn't have a ring in it.
It's a lot of participation certificates.
There you go. Yeah.
And they're not even trophies. You just get a piece of paper.
Yeah, exactly. There's just pictures in a frame up there that says, great participation this year. But it's going to be interesting to see how they, but I still think when you look at our division, I still believe that they're probably going to be second to us in this division. And I say that because I don't see the Raiders doing anything now. I didn't really see them doing a whole lot before, but they were in contention. Now they have a wide receiver, well, 2 wide receivers, and a disgruntled tight end. So, and they still have Derek Carr, so that doesn't help. And they don't really have a defense. Their secondary is without a doubt horrid right now. So it's gonna be a real, I still see Russell Wilson as an 8-game guy, but that's remains to be seen if he's got a rejuvenation in his system, this let's ride or let's roll or whatever he says with Denver, who knows. But we'll have to see. What's your opinion?
Well, if we're talking, division, I've got the Chiefs being, winning the division. Disgruntledly, I will have the Chargers coming in second place, though I really want to bump them to third place for the record.
Yeah.
Then I've got the Raiders, followed up by the Broncos. I don't trust Denver. I don't know if Russell Wilson is as good as he used to be. Russell Wilson, if you look at Russell Wilson's throwing chart in terms of where he likes to throw the football, he loves to throw to outside wide receivers.
Yeah.
And what does this division have? Well, the Chargers and the Chiefs have really good, or at least qualified, corners. He does not throw the ball over the middle. So even slant crossing routes are not really a thing in the Russell Wilson passing tree. So you're really limited right there. And we know that he doesn't run as well as he used to.
No, he definitely doesn't.
I'm not worried about Russell Wilson on the Broncos. I'm not worried about the Broncos. 15-0, baby. Let's keep the streak going.
Yeah. I agree. What do you think, Caleb?
I think when it comes to the Broncos, there's going to be a lot of different things. I mean, they're struggling. When we've seen years past, they haven't beat the Chiefs in like 7-8 years. I think Russell Wilson's good, but one thing I did was I actually was kind of curious, and I kind of re-watched the video, kind of the rise and fall of the Seahawks. And the issue that Russell Wilson had is if you don't have stars around him, and if he's not consistent, he's not going to do well. Plus, they had a top 10 defense that was consistent, had a lot of future Hall of Famers. And what we see with the Broncos did not have that.
Yeah.
So the Broncos don't have that really right now. And I think the Broncos, yeah, you're going to see let Broncos country let's ride. But, I mean, I don't know how far he can get him in this already stacked division. I don't know why he didn't try to go an easier route, like maybe the Saints. I know they probably didn't want to trade him inside the NFC, which makes sense. But when you look at it, it just the Broncos, I don't know what they can do. I really believe it's the Chiefs and the Chargers.
That's what
That's my. I don't see. There's only one way. The only way the Broncos are going to make the playoffs is if some crazy thing happens.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to take like Herbert getting hurt or something of that nature, or, I don't know. I just don't, they don't have the defense. You're right. And honestly, yeah, they've got some decent weapons on offense, but again, like Quentin said, if these aren't outside speedy guys, he's not going to really utilize them as well. He likes to run the ball when he doesn't have anything on the inside. And if you don't have an offensive line, which they really don't have a great offensive line right now, to open them holes up for him. Again, like he said, he doesn't run as well as he used to. It's going to be a challenge for him.
I mean,
He
let's
went to
take a
the
look.
he went to the wrong division.
Take a look at what he had in Seattle. He had one of the best young wide receivers in the game in DK Metcalf, and he had Lockett, Tyler
That's
Lockett.
true.
Yeah.
Two guys that are really good on the outside. I mean, DK Metcalf can straight up Megatron people. I mean, just go over and just snag the ball out of the air.
Yeah.
Now, what do they have in Denver? They have Cortland Sutton, who is a quality wide receiver. I think he's an underrated wide receiver, but he's no DK or Tyler Lockett. And they have Jerry Jeudy, who is supposed to be sort of a McCole Hardman type wide receiver, good, speedy guy. But I don't see Jerry Jeudy really going up and getting jump balls or anything like that, catching a lot of, like fade routes. I'm not sure what exactly, Jerry Jeudy's going to be able to do on the outside. Jerry Jeudy's probably good in the slot and over, crossing routes, stuff like that. But as we discussed earlier, if you look at his tree of where Russell Wilson likes to throw the football, he really doesn't throw the ball over the middle of the field.
No, he doesn't. And when he does, he's usually picked. I mean,
I don't think that offense is going to be that good.
I don't either.
And we talked about this earlier. Vic Fangio's gone. That defense was run and built by Vic Fangio. So how good is that defense really going to be if you remove the brainchild from it?
And the sad part is, when you really think about it, their defense wasn't that great even with Fangio, and then you take him away. I mean, it's going to be a struggle for those guys. I still think the Raiders are probably going to really feel the pain of what they just did. They thought they freed up a bunch of money, but they didn't. And I think they're going to end up, I don't know where they're at on the cap right now, but they're going to have a lot of money to fill those gaps. I don't even think they're close to what the Chiefs have in cap space right now, but I could be wrong, but I don't think they have it. And now the fact that Waller wants an extension and he wants it now, and he hired the agent to get him that extension, because he's seen what he did for Tyreek Hill and he's seen what he did for other players in the NFL, 48% of the other players that he represents. So I think Wilson's going to feel it. I think the Raiders are going to feel it. And I think that it's going to be in this division, it's going to be the Chiefs and then the Chargers. And then the other two are just going to have to duke it out for whatever they want to duke it out for, I guess, for, I don't know, placement's sake. I mean, because I don't see, I mean, is it possible that three of them can go to the playoffs? Well, yeah, especially now, but I'm having a really hard time seeing the Raiders go to the playoffs this year. I can almost see Denver making it in a extreme wild card situation, but I don't know. It's going to be difficult for them. This is a stacked AFC West, though. When it comes to 3 of the 4 quarterbacks, it's very stacked.
I would say 4 out of the 4.
I don't know. I
would say Derek Carr is above average. There's
Derek
times he does
Carr-
not play good, but there's times like, wow. I would say that you have the best, and Quentin, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I would say the AFC West has the best quarterback room of all teams.
It probably does. Hold on one second.
I think Derek Carr is really good when he's throwing the ball down the field. And we sort of just talked about this with Russell Wilson, so I might repeat myself a little bit here. But Derek Carr is good when he's pushing the ball down the field. If you look at his MVP season, Derek Carr was throwing the ball down the field. And after then he got injured and he stopped throwing the ball down the field and he lost a lot of the weapons around him. And then he got John Gruden as his head coach, and we all know the rest. I believe with the offseason additions and specifically trading for Devontae Adams, he's going to go back to that mentality of throwing the ball down the field. And with a offensive minded head coach, that's what's going to happen. So we're going to have a team. We're going to have a Raiders quarterback that's going to throw the ball down the field. And I think they're going to be successful on offense. Now, if you want to talk about how, poor that secondary is, all that, that's fine. But I hate the fact that I have to be a Raiders defender here. I think that offense is going to be good.
I see Devontae Adams getting double and triple covered, and I almost see a lot of what we noticed with Kelsey and Hill last year, because you really only have two viable weapons and a tight end. And when you're in that situation and you know that's his number one look and it's his fifth look, that's who you're going to cover the most. And that's where I see them struggling a little bit. I don't know how long Josh Jacobs is going to last. But if everything goes the way I thought or I heard it was going to go, he may not be there very long. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But we'll just have to see. I don't know. I don't see them doing that much after their debacle of trades and getting rid of everybody that was any good on their team. That was kind of insane. I think that was just an ego thing for him, to be honest with you. And I know there's a lot of egos in the NFL with head coaches, but sometimes you got to put that aside and think, okay, is this guy worth to keep? And they got rid of a lot of good players. So what do you think, Caleb?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think when it comes down to it, I mean, yeah, they lost a lot of players. At the end of the day, it's the AFC West. Nothing would surprise me. And kind of seeing how we've seen in the past so far with the Raiders. I forgot who I was talking to, but someone said they think that they may be able to possibly make that surprise run. There's always that one team that somehow makes the AC Championship game that no one's talking about. I think it's possible, but the only thing is that they have to somehow limp into the playoffs,
Yeah.
which I don't think could happen unless 3 teams from the AC West get taken,
Yeah.
which isn't guaranteed.
No, I don't know. I agree. It's going to be, everybody is new. I mean, everybody is new with the exception of Derek Carr, and the whole completely different coaching staff. And the one thing about McDaniels, yeah, he's very offensive minded, but he's not very defensive minded. And that was proof in the pudding when he dumped everybody on the defense.
Yeah, that's going to be their downfall. Maybe he's trying to do the own Belichick way and draft his own players. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I mean, he was successful in Denver for a little bit. Then all that Spygate stuff came out and he struggled. I will say he's an offensive mastermind, but this is kind of his do around where he kind of has gotten the blessing by the organization, the Raiders, to see what he can do. I think they can be competitive, but I don't know if they can like get a good playoff berth, because it's the Chargers are too good. Unless the Chargers charger like they do every year, then something else is going to happen.
Yeah, you just don't know. Looking at that team as a whole, I see them winning 8 games. That's just for this season anyway. With their schedule and, playing us twice, playing the Chargers twice, and even playing Denver twice, I can't see them winning more than 8 games. But that's just me. I could be completely wrong, and they could just come out and be bullets, but I don't see that happening.
Besides the Raiders, are there any other teams you guys think that could possibly make a run
in the
AFC in general?
I mean, you got the Bills.
That could make a run that no one's really talking about.
Oh,
Oh.
the Ravens.
Yeah, I think the Ravens.
Okay.
Can.
Every year there's that team that goes from worst to first. I think the
Mhm.
Ravens are that team. They've got
Okay.
a 4th place schedule, which means they're facing the worst teams. And I'm not sure which division they're facing off this year, but they've got 6 of their games are all based off of the other worst teams in the other conferences or the other divisions. You've got, it's a good team, good defense, good offense. I don't, depending on what you think of Lamar Jackson, he's still a quality quarterback in this league, even if he doesn't do it the same way other good quarterbacks do it. I think they are easily a double-digit win team, and they win their division and move on to the playoffs.
I tell you, the only thing that concerns me with the Ravens, and I agree with you on everything you said, the only thing I'm concerned with is right now, Lamar Jackson is disgruntled. And I can understand why. I mean, he kind of brought it on himself, but he also has no contract in place. And if they had that much confidence in him, well, number one, they would have consulted him before they traded off his wide receivers. But number two, he would have an extension sitting there instead of them signing everybody else to extensions. And
Well,
that's
it's partly
something that-
his fault too, because he doesn't have an agent.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And
it
then when
is.
the season starts, he won't talk to them because he wants
That's
to focus
true.
on football, which is his prerogative,
Yeah,
But I think the benefit of an agent is not just like you getting the best deal you can because the agent understands the language and the contracts and all of that stuff, but also it's being able to separate yourself from your employer. So, when you are talking to the GM to try and get yourself a contract, there isn't that conversation. You don't feel like you're being undercut because they don't value you,
yeah.
right? There's that buffer there to where the GM can still look at you and say, we value you. And then when it comes to the money, they're having those talks with the agent. And so there's that buffer to where you don't have to have those money conversations. I hope that makes sense.
It does. And honestly, I mean, that's his choice to have his mom as an agent. So far
Not a
she's
good
done
choice.
not a good choice, and she's done nothing for him. But if he doesn't, I think if he doesn't have an agent signed by mid-season, he won't be a Raven next year because he's going to ask for a lot of money. If he doesn't prove himself this year, he definitely won't be one. But he's already asking for a lot of money that they have not even entertained. So he thinks he needs to be paid like the 40-50 million a year quarterback. And I don't think they have that much confidence in him, or they would have already given him whether it had been a $30 million a year deal or whatever, a Derek Carr style contract, they would have given him something. And so far they've given him nothing. So I think that's going to be, he's disgruntled over it. They don't value his opinion, or they would have included him in the conversations with trading off his wide receivers.
I think that he's going to go the Kirk Cousins route.
He
Hmm.
I
might.
think he's going to play his contract out. I think he's going to get franchise tagged, and he'll probably get a second franchise tag, and then he'll become an unrestricted free agent, and he'll go sign somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I think that I would love to be a fly on the wall in those conversations between Lamar Jackson and the GM, because I want to know why there's been such a split between the two. And I'm thinking that it has to do something that, because these contracts are so nuanced and there's so much language that goes into these things that, it's hard for you to, if you haven't spent years looking into this isn't your job, is to know these contracts. It's got to be difficult to really understand what you're looking at. And if you're not an agent, you probably don't. I know if you handed me an NFL contract, and I pay really close attention to the NFL, and I even know some stuff about NFL contracts. But if you handed me an NFL contract and said, is this a good deal or not? You could trick me with all sorts of language in there, and I could be like, oh yeah,
without
this is
fail.
a good deal.
Oh yeah.
So you got to hire an agent. It's one, I have no problem with you advocating for yourself, but that 3% is that you have to pay the agent is so worth it to be able to separate yourself, and they really will get you the best deal that you can. So I just don't understand the thought process of trying to do that. And I mean, we saw that with the Bills linebacker, with him. I mean, all these players that, I mean, with here in Kansas City with Orlando Brown, there was no movement until Brown got an agent.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the thing is, he has been very adamant about not getting an agent, and I think that's part of it is him not wanting to hurt his mother's feelings, that emotional thing, and then also him thinking that he doesn't need to pay somebody that 3 or 5 or 8% or whatever they get, depending on the agent and the player. But he's making a giant mistake for his career at this point, because it's just, I don't think they have the confidence in him. I really don't think they have it. I just don't. It kind of reminds me of the Baker Mayfield situation to a degree. They didn't have they had the confidence in him at the beginning, and then his antics and the way he acted pushed that confidence level away. Now with Lamar, I think it's more of a, is he going to get injured type of situation? Is he going to be able to be a more accurate thrower? Who knows? It's just weird that he doesn't have a contract or even one out on the table right now.
Yeah, it's just the way that it's weird. I mean, at this point, I don't even know.
Yeah, it's strange. It's just it's going to be different. Now, something that I was kind of surprised about, and I don't know about you guys, what did you think about the decision to put Trubinsky as the starter over Pickett in Pittsburgh?
I think it's the right choice
Really?
because if Trubisky comes out and sucks, it's easy to bench Trubisky and put the rookie in. If Pickett
Mhm.
comes out and sucks, it's harder to bench the rookie and put the veteran in and then try and put the rookie back in later in the year.
Yeah.
Plus, I think Trubisky has gotten a lot of hate that he doesn't deserve. I think Trubisky's a better quarterback than what people think. I think his stint with that, he got that team to the playoffs 2 of the 4 years he was there.
Yeah.
You know, I think that was just a horrible position for everybody to be in, really, in Chicago. So I think they made the right decision in doing it. And Mike Tomlin is maybe the one of the best 3 head coaches in the NFL.
Yeah.
So whatever decision he makes is probably the right one.
I think when it comes down to it too, you always put the veteran in there, see what they can do. If not, you move to the rookie. Like Quentin said, if you start the rookie first, we see a lot of teams do. They let the rookies go through those struggles, and they're like, "Let's see if we can be winnable first before we end up doing that drop." So,
Yeah. I mean, we saw that kind of with Tua and Fitzpatrick, during that Miami tenure where they were swapping back and forth, and Fitzpatrick gets them all the way to the playoffs. Oh, let's start Tua. It's kind of weird to do that. It's harder on the veteran, in my opinion, but especially when like a Fitzpatrick did so well. He was the reason why that team got where they were. And then you have this kind of a headache. So, where you just switch back and forth. And I didn't understand that. But that was a Flores decision. Actually, it really wasn't his decision. That was more of a Ross decision, but we'll have to see how how it plays out in Pittsburgh. But I don't know if Trubinsky is going to be able to. I mean, he didn't look that great in preseason. Pickett did. So I can almost see that change happening fairly quick by maybe week 4 or 5.
You also got to know or remember too that Pittsburgh's competing for playoff spots. This is not a team that's in complete rebuild mode. This is not a situation like Houston or the Jaguars where their entire roster is trash and they're completely rebuilding. There's a lot of talent on this team. Still, they have Mike Tomlin, who's their head coach. So this is a team that's still wanting to compete with the playoffs. And while they've taken a couple steps back over the last 3 years since Ben Roethlisberger's arm turned into a boiled noodle.
Yeah.
They've still been competitive. They made the playoffs last year with Ben Roethlisberger. I believe that Mitch Trubisky can be better than what Ben Roethlisberger was last year because Mitch Trubisky can push the ball down the field.
Yeah. If he keeps the
So
interceptions to a minimum, he could be a better player.
I think that they can be the same team. I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers went 9-8 again and made the playoffs. That would not surprise me.
In that division?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Because you got to remember, division games, just because one team is better than you doesn't mean anything because it's a division game. You face these guys 2 times a year. Look at what Miami's done to the Patriots for the last 15 years. They continue to beat them in Miami. For whatever reason, they've won like 7 out of the last 9 in Miami. It doesn't make sense. It's a division football game. Anything can happen.
Very true. I mean, we've seen what's happened in our division. We could play the worst team in our division and still it'd be a close game. Even in the Mahomes era, it's happened. So, it's just going to really depend on a lot of different things. But I think they're probably going to make. I have a feeling they'll make a change by week 4 or 5. I just have that feeling because Tomlin has never had a losing season, and I don't think he's going to let this one happen. He's not going to let a quarterback cause that. So we'll just have to see, though. You never know. Trubinsky may have a completely rejuvenated mindset and come out and play better than he did in the preseason games, but he didn't look that great in preseason. So Kenny Pickett did. I mean, he looked really good, and he's got a hell of an arm, very accurate, strong as can be, big. That's the quarterback that they like, is that big Ben Roethlisberger style quarterback, and that's why they drafted him. So,
And he went to the college in Pittsburgh.
yeah,
So the fans are going to be calling his name as soon as Mitch Trubisky does something.
yeah,
I think Mitch Trubisky is going, what was that? Josh Rosen, that sort of situation where it's
Yeah.
like guy just doesn't have, the opportunity. But I think Mitch Trubisky is going to be a decent quarterback there in
I agree.
Pittsburgh.
I agree. I think when it comes down to it, Trubisky really didn't have the best opportunity for who was that originally with the Bears, and I think with the Steelers, they at least give him a chance
yeah,
in a team that's going to back him. Now, in the event that he does bad, Pickett, that's just the future right there. That's just how things are. We see Tyrod Taylor, it's happened to him 3 or 4 times.
yeah.
It's just kind of one of them things. Unfortunately, it's just what happens.
Look what just happened to Jimmy G. I mean, same
Yeah.
thing.
The new guy comes in, that's who they want to move forward. So, I mean, that's just what we see what ends up happening in football. So,
Well, and the thing too is that you can't let a first round draft pick sit for very long. It's just that simple.
Oh, ask the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah. So, I mean, you just can't let them sit that long. And now in this day and age, you let one sit too long and they're somewhere else. And their agent, if they have one, makes that happen. So, we just have to see how it plays out. But at this point, I don't know who else can. I think the Jets might have a little bit of they may have a little bit of stoutness to them this year. I mean, I know people, it's probably an unpopular opinion, but I think they're probably going to be a little better than what people expect.
I mean, they went 4-13 last year, so you can almost only go up
Yeah,
from there.
yeah. I mean, unless you're the Browns, and go 2 straight years and win 1 game. But it's going to be interesting to see how this AFC plays out. It's going to be definitely different. What do you think, Caleb?
no, I agree. It's going to be an interesting year. It's kind of wide open. I think the Chiefs will end up pulling through, but at the end of the day, I think there's going to be another team that ends up jumping in there and is just trying to make the AFC Championship game. It's a surprise team that not many people are thinking about. So
I agree. Who do you think it's going to be?
it could be the Raiders. That's if something were to happen. Say the Chargers drop off. The one team I can think is the Colts with Matt Ryan.
Yeah,
That's a steady team. They might be able to, but that's the one thing I can think of. The Ravens are too wishy-washy, in my opinion, still. But I think Colts could be that team that makes that surprise run.
I didn't think about that.
They have the
You're right.
pieces to do it.
They do.
They got a good quarterback finally
Yeah,
that can kind of help lead them there. Matt Ryan's pretty accurate. They got a good running game. They got a decent defense. I think they'll be able to surprise some teams.
yeah, I agree with you. And their schedule's favorable, so
Mhm.
I think they may be that team that you're right. I didn't think about them. They didn't even pop into my head, but Ryan is very efficient. He's very game management oriented and he's very accurate. So we'll just have to see how that plays out. But it's going to be an interesting season, that's for sure. Has anybody seen a score of this Bills game? What's going on?
The Bills won 31-10.
Whoa, that's
Mhm.
surprising. That is very
Yep.
surprising. Didn't expect that. Well,
I've got my believe it or not.
let's do that.
Let's hit it.
Want
Let's
to
go.
do that? Finish it off.
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay, I've got 3. 2 of them are about just the season in general. One of them is about Sunday. So I'll start off with the season and then finish off with the one on Sunday. It's a good wrap up. Okay, believe it or not, Patrick Mahomes will finish over 5,000 passing yards.
Believe it.
Yeah, I believe it.
I think it's very possible. If he finishes 4,000, that wouldn't surprise me. 5,000, I think is very possible, especially the offense that
Yeah.
the Chiefs have.
Yeah, I believe it.
I think that it's going to be right around like 4,800. I don't think he'll hit the 5,000 mark. I
Mm.
think he'll be like right around there, a little
Okay.
bit more than what he averages, but I don't think he actually hits that mark just because we generally see that from either like historic offenses or guys that are forced to throw the ball a lot. And I don't think the Chiefs are going to be forced to throw the ball all that much because I think their offense is still going to be efficient, if that makes sense. They're not going to have to throw the ball 25 times in the fourth quarter to win the game.
But always remember, it could be a short 10-yard dump off, but if you got the yards after the catch, that's still yards on the quarterback. So
True.
Yeah, that is true.
Okay, second, believe it or not, Clyde will have less than 650 yards rushing. I'll tell you why I picked this here in a second.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Caleb. I'll let you take this one.
No, oh, okay. I'm gonna say I think he will have. I believe it because the way, unless he has a breakout year, I don't see him getting honestly more than 500 yards, 550 yards rushing, maybe 350 receiving. He's gonna have under 1,000 all-purpose yards, combining everything as a whole.
I agree with you. I can see him running for about 550, and then maybe receiving yards of 100, 102, maybe 200 at the most. But that's really about it out of him. Unless there's some kind of resurgence. But what do you think, Quentin?
I think he'll hit the 650 over 650 rushing yards. I picked this one because betting sports gambling became official earlier this month, a week ago, and this was one of the like most popular and most controversial picks that people were making. The bet was will Clyde get 650 rushing yards in the season, and a whole bunch of people were hammering the under. And I think that just shows that Clyde is one of the players on this roster that fans just in general, not necessarily us, but fans in general have like lost trust in. That like for whatever reason, maybe it's because he was that, number 32 pick that, or maybe it's because he's injured a lot. Fans just haven't trusted his production for this upcoming season. Personally, I think he's going to hit the over. And if you, have a few bucks laying around and the odds are still good, I don't know what they sit at right now, but maybe that's something you can throw a couple bucks at. Gamble responsibly.
No.
Yeah.
Now the final one is for this upcoming game. Believe it or not, Juju will get 100 receiving yards and a tutty, buddy, on Sunday. That's a touchdown.
I don't believe it, but go ahead.
I believe it.
I only have
think
one
it can
reason
happen.
why I don't.
I
You're
think
talking
it
about this
happen.
game coming up, right?
Yeah, Sunday.
Okay.
I think it's very possible. He'll at least get a touchdown. He may not get the 100 yards, but I think he'll get the touchdown.
Yeah. Well, he'll probably he may get a touchdown. I'm worried about his knee. So that's the only reason I say no, is because I'm more concerned about them maybe giving him a little less of a role and letting his knee heal up more. He's not fully 100% yet. So what do you think, Quentin?
I think that there's going to be one big play from Juju because Travis Kelce's going to get, double teamed and hit on the line. And so a corner is going to be one-on-one with Juju, and Patrick Mahomes will do one of those roll out, tell Juju to go deep, and he'll just flick it to him. And I think that's where he's going to get most of his yards from. So I think he's going to get 100 yards, but it won't be like I dominated you for the whole game. It's going to be, this is a 60-yard touchdown pass, and now I have a couple of decent slant routes.
Yeah.
I think that's how he gets his 100 yards, but I think he'll do it.
Okay.
I think he's going to be the number one wide receiver, hands down, on this offense. He's going to beat the next closest wide receiver by 150 yards easy by the end of the year.
I will I would like to see that. I just hope he stays healthy. That's my biggest concern with him, is staying healthy. So,
yeah, that's my biggest concern too. If he can stay healthy, then it's gonna be a good season. So
yeah. So, well, that was awesome. We'll have to see how that plays out. We'll save that and we'll have to talk about it on the next show and see. who's,
Quentin, do us a favor. Make a tweet of this, and we'll retweet it and put it out there for you. Make
Yeah.
a
Oh,
tweet and retweet
you want
it.
me to do the believe? I can. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, make a
Yeah.
tweet. We'll retweet it, and then we'll see what people say about it.
Sure.
make
Do you want me to
make
do
it a-
all three of them or each
Do a
individual
thread,
one?
whatever you want to do.
All right.
Yeah, put them all in one tweet. Actually, put
All
them all
right.
in one tweet. Yeah.
I'll do it. So if
You
you're
can even make it a
listening to
poll if you want
this,
to.
go comment on the tweet. Follow
Yeah.
me at Quentin C. Morris, Quentin. And I gotta spell it out because my name can, some people spell my name differently.
I know.
Yeah, and I guess if you're following me, you can read my pre and post game articles.
Mhm,
So
That's
Yep.
very true. Very true. So
there's
all right,
my
guys.
selfless plug.
Yeah, well,
Very good, man.
That's good, man. Well,
Real quick, what's your guys' before we end it? What's your guys' score predictions for tomorrow?
for
You know what?
Sunday?
The Bills won 31-10. Chiefs will win 31-10.
31-10. Okay.
What do you think, Caleb?
What do you think, JP?
Oh, well, given their past history of scoring 33 or more, it seems like every single season since Mahomes been in the league, I'm gonna go 33-14.
Okay. All right.
What do
I'm
you-
gonna go. I'm gonna go 36-22.
Okay, that's a good number.
That's what I'm gonna give.
Yep, that's a good number. I'm giving our defense a little bit of hype and a little encouragement to keep the score down, and I'm hoping they will. I hope this rejuvenated defense that we think is going to be as good as they seem to be. I hope they rejuvenate themselves and keep the points down, because I'm tired of hearing about the Bills being the number one defense in points allowed. Tired of hearing about that. So
Yeah. Well, we'll hear a lot now about the Bills hype since they won, unfortunately.
Oh,
So,
jeez.
yeah, God.
number one team in the NFL. Okay, good for them. They beat a team that just won the Super Bowl. They're off the Super Bowl hangover. I mean, that's just kind of what we've seen for the most part. Besides the Chiefs, they were able to kind of defeat that myth and go up a Super Bowl, but they lost. So-
Congratulations for getting kicked out of the playoffs in the divisional round.
Yep.
Exactly.
Exactly. So they may have just played their Super Bowl. So we'll have to see how that goes. But week 1 Super Bowl. So we'll see how that goes. But with that being said, we are going to have a special show tomorrow. We got a special guest coming on. I'll let it be a surprise, but everybody loves him. And it's going to be awesome to have him on. So that's going to air early. This one will be out tomorrow as well. And I hope everybody enjoys Red Friday. I know I will, but I've been waiting for it, and now it's officially Red Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So let's all enjoy the weekend and get ready for a big win on Sunday. We will talk to you after the game, and we'll get our last words in about how the Chiefs look.
Like a Super Bowl winner.
That's right.
Week to week, you know me, JP. I think they'll win this game.
I know, buddy. That's okay. I'm the guy that out of the two of us, I'm the guy that's more optimistic. I guess, but I don't know if it's optimism or if it's just fandom. But
Mhm.
either way, I want to see him win every game, and I'd love to see him win out and be the first team since the 72 Miami Dolphins to win out a season. I would love to see that happen, but difficult to do when you're playing 17 games now. So
It's only going to get more difficult when they add the other one.
yep. So with that being said, we will talk to you guys on Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and peace out. Chiefs Kingdom.
See you next time, guys.